Bernardette, you've recently been recognised with an MBE. Congratulations for your tireless work as an innovative, inspiring teacher with a long career in languages, as an advisor, inspector, teacher trainer and researcher who's made a real major contribution to languages education in England. Tell us first about the current national languages policy for today's primary schools.
Well, the first major step is that we have statutory requirements for every child from the age of 7 to learn a language. And it can be either a modern or an ancient language. Most schools have chosen a modern language. Some are also studying a range of languages. But the key message for us is that it must be a coherent programme of learning which has substantial progress in one language. And that should be offered to all of the youngsters who learn a language, that it's progression in one language. The idea being, of course, that the primary school sets the foundation for the learning of that language and other languages and links into a lifelong apprenticeship in learning languages, and we hope mastery of at least one.
And you spoke a lot in your talk earlier about how important it is for this progression through school for the youngsters when they actually go into the workplace.
Yes, very much so. The fact of English as the lingua franca, this gives us an opportunity, but it can also be a disadvantage. Nobody would be disingenuous to suggest, and nobody would suggest, that having English as a first language is anything other than an asset in a world which is choosing to speak English as the lingua franca. I think current statistics show that 1 in 4 people at world level, global level, speak English, and others are aspiring to learn English. So of course we understand that. But why would you choose to let your singular advantage become a singular disadvantage by not learning other languages? So it's very important for every young person who goes into the world of work that they have at least one other language. And I would suggest at a reasonable level of fluency and accuracy. So the current policy is that the GCSE in a language should be made available to all young people, and that at least 90% of young people should sit the GCSE in a modern foreign language. And that would at least give them an intermediate level of competence, and they can build on that. Even that is insufficient. Really, it's about learning languages for life. And we need international experience, we need to increase our language fluency, and that comes by using the language in an interactive way. And that can be through virtual exchanges, joint curriculum projects, it can be studying abroad. There are all kinds of ways in which you can keep your language alive. And of course, if you continue into university and higher education, you've got institution-wide language provision, language programs, which you can either use to improve, if you like, your existing language, or add another. And there are ab initio courses in a wide range of languages, including world languages like Arabic. And if you haven't had a chance to learn other modern European languages, like German, for example, that's always a very popular option in higher education. So it's very important that they realise that learning a language does equip you for the world of work. Very often we're asked, which language or languages should you learn? Well, as an English speaker, it would be difficult to say one language more than any other, to be perfectly honest. I would suggest that employers are very keen on the main languages of our European partners, our trading partners. So French, German and Spanish are very important. But equally, there's a great interest and growing interest in Mandarin Chinese and in a range of other languages. And it's about the ability to pick up fluency in a language, at least for conversational level, with any particular client or contact that you have in the workplace, and being ready to do that, not being resistant to acquiring other languages throughout your working life.
And I think what was interesting in your talk as well is when you said that it's actually been shown that mathematics, science and languages are all key elements that people need to learn. Language now isn't seen as maybe, as an add-on.
Absolutely, and that became very clear in the research that I undertook, that employers do recognise STEM subjects as very important, but equally they recognise the value of languages. And again, they may not clamour for one particular language. We're back to that question. What they certainly do value is the intercultural understanding and the cultural agility that comes from learning another language. And what they've also stressed repeatedly in interviews is that if you don't have the experience of communicating in another language, you are probably a less efficient and effective communicator in English. Because learning another language enables you to recognise nuance, to recognise that words cannot readily find equivalents in some cases, in fact in most cases, and that there is another layer of meaning and essence beneath the words. And once you understand that, you begin to clarify your thinking, the way you express your thoughts, and you don't tend to be lazy and use idioms that are culturally completely unknown to your interlocutor. So you choose to measure your communication and aim to clarify your message, and that's something that comes from learning another language.
So finally, in your obviously very educated view, what is the future for primary languages as you see it?
I believe it's very, very strong. We do need to support primary practitioners, because not every primary practitioner has had the opportunity to develop competence in a language to the level of fluency that would be desirable, put it like that. And there is excellent work going on with general primary practitioners, improving and strengthening their language learning, working with native speakers, working with foreign language assistants, working with partners from secondary schools and external providers who come in, and great work is going on. But equally, what is very encouraging is that there are more and more schools now that are setting up to engage specialist linguists, so that you do have primary teachers who do have degrees in the subject that they're teaching, and at least GCSE or A-level competence. And that really is required if you're going to tackle the challenges and some of the exciting work that is envisaged in the curriculum. But I'm very optimistic about primary languages, and it's more about the foundation that it gives for a broader cultural view. It's the way young children see the world and the way the world sees them, and it moves them out of the absolutism that can happen if they only have one language and see the world through only one filter. So I'm very optimistic about primary languages.